All right, let's get this party started. Let's hope everything works today. Good morning, y'all, and happy Halloween for those in the United States of America. Today is November 1st, 2017, here in the Philippines, the first day of the rest of our lives. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Today we're going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking, yapping about. Hopefully this thing is actually working. Let's see. All right, looks like we're live. Today I'm going to be talking about my trip to Siquijior, which I returned from yesterday. Spent 2 days, 1 night there. It was actually pretty cool, but as usual, I made some mistakes and turned it into my own little misadventure. And I'll be talking briefly about living with the very real reality of sometimes being lonely in the Philippines. I mean, it's a nation of over 100 million individuals. There's a number of foreigners here. But sometimes when you're living here long term, you're definitely going to feel isolated. You're going to feel alone. You're going to be a little depressed and you're going to feel a little lonely and a little sad for yourself. Again, keep it in context. This is pretty much a first world problem for many of us living here when you compare it against some of the other things that people are dealing with in the Philippines. It's really not that significant, but it is a reality. All right, let's get into it. First off, let's get right to the trivia so we can give somebody a free book. If you want a free copy of Chasing Your Philippine Dream, an Expat's Guide to the Philippines, written by yours truly, compiled by yours truly, get your browser ready, set it to myphilippinedreams@gmail.com. Last week's trivia question was, with the new season of Stranger Things coming up, having finished reading Ready Player One, which if you're a sci-fi fan, I highly recommend, and seeing how many of my friends back in the States are diving into the resurgence of Dungeons and Dragons, last week's trivia question was, this early D&D dungeon module, now considered a classic and rightly so, was written by the creator of Dungeons and Dragons. The high-level dungeon module featured a series of fiendish traps and adversaries, and culminated in battle with the dire Arch-Lich Acererak. Stephen and W guessed the correct answer. The correct answer was The Tomb of Horrors, written by Gary Gygax, who was the creator of Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm telling you, man, Dungeons and Dragons is really taken off and all around the world. And that show, Stranger Things, I think has a lot to do with it. And Stephen was sent a copy of the book. This week's trivia question, here we go, and it's a trivia question I've asked before. A television show that piqued my own personal interest in the tropics featured a somewhat famous quote in its very first season. I think it was the second or third episode, or maybe it was even the pilot. The quote was, "We either live together or we die alone." I am reminded of the series whenever I see oceanic shipping containers in the Philippines. And if you're in the Philippines, you see these oceanic shipping containers all over the place. The first person to email the name of this TV show to myphilippinedreams@gmail.com and gets a free copy of our book, a $10.95 value, at any of your local book retailers. And if you have questions about the Philippines, it's actually a really good resource. I highly recommend it. The link is down in the video description box. It's got a 100% money back guarantee. And I just had to issue my second refund. I've had to refund money twice because it's got the 100% money back guarantee. And the reason, again, this time was the guy thought it was an actual physical book. And he was very nice when he emailed me. He said, "Ned, I thought this was an actual book and not an ebook." So I refunded his money, and he was very good about that. So that's basically it. The live chat should be open. Try to keep it civil. Let's try to have a discourse here. Seems to be quite a few comments already. It's hard for me to keep up with all the comments because it's only got a little comment box, and I'm technologically challenged, and I haven't figured out how to make that live chat box bigger. But hello to Timothy White. Hello to Joer003. He said must be at Flip-Flops. I'll actually be at Flip-Flops tomorrow evening. The Sabanal family, once again, will be doing an acoustic set there, I believe. I got to actually text them, make sure they're going to be there because their schedule is pretty busy lately. So, yeah. And that's a good place to just go, chill, relax, have a couple drinks, hang out with some friends, and listen to some not blaring and not overly loud, cool acoustic music. The family is incredibly talented. The son, the brother is just a phenomenal guitarist and an incredible vocalist. and I'm so jealous of them. I wish I could sing. Hello, Kyle. What's the sponsor? I don't think we're going to have a sponsor this week. I'm going to try to keep this one pretty short. All right, so let me get into my trip to Siquijior, my misadventure to the island of witches. I've been to Siquijior a few times. Each time I've gone there, I haven't actually spent enough time. I've always tried to rush through it, to try to get to as many places as I can. And I repeated this mistake this time once again. My companion going over there was somebody that I know I've known for years, and she had never gone over there. We'll call her Dana. And Dana works locally here. And so she agreed to go with me because she had never been to Siquijior, and she agreed to help me with the camera work and the videoing and keeping an eye on stuff because I brought the Mavic. I brought my drone over there and everything. So she helped out a lot with that. She didn't get out to work till 3 o'clock in the morning, and so she didn't get much sleep that first night. I made the first mistake I made, and here we go. Let's get to the list of Ned's mistakes because he doesn't know any better after 4 years of living in the Philippines. We got to the port a little early, and there was actually we were going to take the 8:30 Montenegro, the big ferry over to Siquijior. But we got there a little early. There was a ferry available at 8 o'clock, so we decided to jump on that one. Unfortunately, it was one of those small little ferries. It was like a fast craft, a small fast craft with the outriggers. And I will never, ever, ever take one of those little small craft again if given the option of a larger ferry. It was cramped. The seats were very uncomfortable. There was water spraying in on both sides because you had the open windows, and it wasn't all that pleasant. And even though they describe it as a fast craft, it wasn't all that fast, and it got there in about the same time that it took to get on a larger ferry. When we came back, we took the Montenegro, the big ferry. It's beautiful. You can get up, walk around. I saw the most phenomenal sunset I have ever seen, not only in the Philippines, but in my entire life. And unfortunately, all I had was my S7 camera, and even though I was shooting in RAW to try to capture it, the aperture on the S7 is just too small, so I wasn't able to fully capture just how beautiful that sunset was. The video that I took actually looked better than the photos. I was only able to get one good photo off of it. So we get to Siquijior. We arrived there about 10 o'clock. Scooter rentals are readily available right at the port, but Siquijior just in the past year has changed quite a bit in 3 ways. The first is there's no smoking on Siquijior anymore, and they are quite serious about enforcing it. I believe it's a 500 peso on the spot fine. So when we got off the ferry, of course I smoke, we get to the scooter rental place, and I start to smoke, and the guy goes, no, 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 you have to smoke in there, which was basically like this little enclosed hut, and it was enclosed on all sides. It was really hot and nasty in there. So they're enforcing the smoking ban, which is good because people that don't smoke shouldn't be subjected to nasty smokers' secondhand smoke. Second thing that I noticed is they are now enforcing the helmet law. They are taking that quite seriously. All the motorcycle and scooter rental places, they now insist that you take the helmet. Luckily, they have a variety of helmets available there. They found one for my giant head, so that wasn't an issue. That's also something that's being enforced, and we did run into checkpoints. And speaking of checkpoints, the military and police presence on Siquijior was extremely noticeable. They had checkpoints set up all over the place. They had armed military here and there patrolling around. Some people might know there is a travel advisory for this area, the Visayas, right now, so it looks like they're taking it seriously. A lot more serious than what I've seen in Dumaguete. I haven't seen a checkpoint in Dumaguete in quite a while. I think the last time was me and Craig coming back from south of the city, and we ran into it like 10 o'clock on a Friday night or something. So that was cool. So those are the 3 differences that I'm seeing over in Siquijior. It used to be like the wild, wild west over there, and it still kind of is because it's really laid back. The great thing about Siquijior, there's no traffic, there's no congestion, things are just chill. It's a really relaxed place to go. It's also a very popular tourist destination, especially along San Juan. San Juan was just basically all foreigners. And if you want good pizza in this area, you have to go to Siquijior and go to Marco Polo. So, accommodations. Last time that I was in Siquijior, I stayed at Garden Bungalow, and this time I stayed in Siquijior, I stayed at Garden Bungalow once again. Garden Bungalow is not on the beach. A lot of those places were actually already booked by the time I decided I was going to go. So we went to Garden Bungalow. It's further up the road towards San Antonio as you're leaving Siquijior proper. It's just north, and it's got a little bumpy road that you get to, but it's isolated. It's quiet. It's incredibly clean. It's incredibly secure. It's built to European standards because the husband of the owner, I believe, is Swiss. Shout out to them. Hey, Renee. And it's just really nice. Everything is perfect there. And I took some drone footage of that, and I'll be getting into that, so we stayed there. And the first day, after Dana only had like 2 hours sleep that morning, we blasted off. And the first place we went to, of course, was up to San Antonio. Now, I like going up to San Antonio and starting my adventure that way because it's very cool up there. The elevation is high, there's a lot of shade, and they're actually improving the roads. So we get to San Antonio, and San Antonio's that town. Every year, all the witch doctors converge across the Philippines. I think they call them healers now. Witch's Claw. I think they call them healers now. And they get together and they have this big celebration or whatever, and they, make potions, love potions, all that stuff. I tried to get a love potion, but unfortunately I wasn't able to locate one. We stayed there just a short while, and then we went up into Banilaad? Banilaad National Park. And Banilaad National Park, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is way up. It's the highest point. When you're in Dumaguete and you're looking across at Siquijor, the highest point there is that national park. It's its own ecosystem. It's hardwood trees. It's actually too cold. I had to put on my long sleeve T-shirt at one point. There's a couple points along the way. They actually have like a visitor center. There's 2 visitor centers. Go to the second one. And they have this cool observation tower. And the last time I was there, the observation tower, the steps to it hadn't been completed, and it was quite a treacherous climb. This time it wasn't so bad. And this time we could actually see. Because the last time I was there, again, it's the highest point on Siquijor, so you got all the cloud cover up there. The last time I was there, you couldn't see anything. This time you actually got a pretty good view. And I risked taking the drone up because it was just a little opening in the canopy to actually launch the drone. So I shot the drone up, did a quick 360, and it didn't come out that good because it was too quick of the 360. The Manila Hobo, Van Dieber, nope, I am a successful YouTuber. And so that was cool. And it's really nice. It's very cool. It's a nice ride as opposed to going along the coastal road. The coastal road is a lot faster because when you're in the interior roads, you're dealing with the traffic, not the traffic, but the construction that's going on because they're trying to fix those roads. And you got to go slower because it's, very windy and you never know when a wild dog's going to run out. So you got to keep an eye out for that. So after that, going up to Banilaad National Forest, we went down towards the butterfly sanctuary. And unfortunately, the recent storm, Typhoon Paulo, I believe it was called, the Bagyo-san, caused a lot of damage to the butterfly garden that they have there. And it looks like it hasn't been that well maintained. There was moss growing over the sign and everything. And the admission price had gone up. It only went up to 100 pesos, but there was actually Filipino tourists coming there, and as soon as they heard it was 100 pesos, they turned around. And talking to the woman that was working there was only like 20 to 25 butterflies that survived the storm. And also the guy that I wanted to interview, who was like a ethnobiologist or entomologist or whatever you call those guys that study insects and stuff, he wasn't there. And I actually wanted to interview him about the butterfly garden, the butterfly sanctuary, and the process. He was actually picking up pupae and caterpillars to repopulate the sanctuary that they had here. So we didn't check that out. Following that, we went down, of course, to Cambugahay Falls. And this is someplace that I highly recommend. Cambugahay Falls is a very tourist. It's probably the most popular waterfall on Siquijor, and it's got some really cool rope swings. And this time, because of the storm, there's 2 pools. There's a lower pool and an upper pool. I like the upper pool, but what happened was with the storm, it brought down all kinds of sand and gravel, so the upper pool, the water was actually too shallow to do the rope swing on, so they were using the lower pool, and it was filled with Chinese and Korean tourists. It was just packed, mobbed with people. There was actually too many people there. Um, but again, it's good for the local economy. People are making money. The locals are making money. And it's getting placed on the map, so that was good. I also brought the drone up there, and I discovered that when you get a drone too close to a waterfall, all the condensation gets on the camera, and you basically can't see anything. So another misadventure. I'm glad it didn't crash into the water. And if you get a Mavic drone, or if you have like the other kind, the Cricket or whatever it is, or any type of drone, and it has the capability to hand launch, that means you can launch it from your hand and land it in your hand. Make sure you learn how to do that before you actually go out in the field using it, because I had a hard time landing the drone at the waterfall. Matter of fact, a couple times I thought I was just going to crash into the cliff or slide off into the water. Later on that day, when we got back to Garden Bungalow, I actually got a YouTube video. YouTube is great. I love YouTube. And learned how to land it and take off. From there, we went to the nunnery. I tried to drop off Dana. She wanted to become a nun, but they wouldn't accept her. That's also where you get your marriage licenses, I guess, on Siquijior. That's the location. So it's either she get married or become a nun, and she didn't want to do either one of those. So we went off to try to find the giant tree on the eastern side of the island. We couldn't find that because, again, come on, Department of Tourism, Philippines, put some signs up, man. Put some signs up. It's hard to find stuff when there's no signs. So we didn't find that. We blasted down to San Juan, which is the coastal area, and that's where you can actually see the best sunsets on Siquijior. So if you're into sunsets, and you can see some beautiful sunsets there, I highly recommend San Juan, the beach area there. We stopped off at a place called Marco Polo. It's run by an Italian gentleman. I forgot what his name is, and the food there was quite good. He specializes, matter of fact, I think he only has pizza and pasta, and it's the best pizza and pasta I've had in the area. And the portions are huge. The price is basically the same as Dumaguete. It was 195 pesos for a pizza. We got 2 pizzas, and we had a whole pizza as leftovers, which we had for breakfast the next day. And then we blasted back to Garden Bungalow, and that was the end of the first day. Thank you, God. I don't give thanks all that often. I probably should express my gratitude and appreciation, develop that attitude of gratitude. It didn't rain the entire time we were in Siquijior. It was beautiful. As soon as we got back, it started raining again. It was raining all the way up until the trip, and then after we got back, it continued raining. So thank God for that, because there's nothing worse than going on a trip and being stuck in a hotel room because it's pouring outside. So I really appreciate that. Pete Chamberlain says, he asks, hey Ned, can you recommend a place to stay in Dumaguete besides Dave's Dumaguete Studio Apartments? Yeah, check out Hermogena. You can find them on Facebook, Hermogena. I've known a number of guys that have stayed there. I think actually they do let you stay month to month, the same as Dave does. So if the Studio Apartments isn't up to snuff for you, check out Hermogena. That's where a couple friends of ours stayed, and they loved it because it's very clean, it's very safe, and it's very secure. Speaking of clean, shout out to Siquijior. Man, you guys have really upped the game. There was no trash on the side of the road. They're even enforcing the loud muffler ban over there. I didn't once hear a loud muffler the entire time I was over in Siquijior. Mary Lou Jack says, Ned, how's the weather in Dumaguete? It's overcast. It was overcast all day yesterday. It was pouring the night before, and yeah, it's La Nina. We had El Nino for like a year and a half. It was so dry, it was so hot, everything died, everything was yellow, all the vegetation was yellow. So now we got La Nina going on, and we've gotten a lot of rain. Chad B Photography says, Ned, why don't you travel more? You should check out Thailand, dude. Yeah, I'd like to do that. The thing is I got to work too. So balancing, a pretty full work schedule with traveling can be, God, you guys, the poor hobo. Poor hobo. Yeah, Janie Recat says, oh my God, what is going on in this chat, Ned? Because everybody's just walking on the hobo. Well, what goes around comes around. You know, it's just desserts. All right, so day 2, and this is where I really screwed up. So finally, Dana's able to get a good night's sleep. She slept for like 11 hours, 12 hours. Got up. She got up around 10 o'clock in the morning. We ate the rest of the pizza for breakfast, and we took off at 12. And Garden Bungalow was nice enough to store. They had people coming into our room at 12 o'clock, so we had to be out of there by noon. But they were nice enough to store the majority of our belongings in a secure area, and we took off. And I headed towards the northeast tip of the island. I believe it's called Saladaong Forest or something, or Maritime Sanctuary or something like that. I'm totally butchering the pronunciation. And instead of going around the coastal road, we cut through the interior because it was cooler. Unfortunately, being the moron that I am, by the time we got there, it was actually time to head back to catch the 4:30 ferry. Also, Garden Bungalow, if you're staying for 2 nights, they'll do a free pickup at the port. They'll also drop you back off at the port. They'll make sure you get your ferry tickets ahead of time. They'll send somebody down there, a courier down to get those. And they also offer laundry services, food, restaurant, drinks, and motorcycle and scooter rentals. He's actually got a nice NMAX. I like that NMAX. So we headed off. We got there. It's a long ride. It was a tiring ride. I'm a moron. By the time I got there, I just put the Mavic up for a little while. I got some video, and it was basically time to head back. We went along the western coast, and that's where we hit the checkpoint. And I basically had to blast along, going faster than I usually like to, 50 to 60 kilometers an hour, to try to make it back to the port. We made it back to the port on time. We picked our stuff up at Garden Bungalow. She was tired. I could tell she was tired because I'm a moron and I didn't actually plan this out, and I was rushing around too much. So I guess what you can learn from my stupidity and my misadventures and my mistakes, if you're going to Siquijior, take a couple days, take a couple nights, 3 days, 2 nights, take it slow, cruise around, chill, relax, take lots of breaks, smell the flowers, do all that stuff. I'm running around because I got to get video, because I want to do a video and all this stuff. And going through the video and the photos and all this stuff yesterday, when you're doing videos, you're trying to tell a story, from the opening, contents, and the end. And it really didn't come out all that great. So I did a lot of running around for nothing. So next time I gotta slow down a bit. All right, let's take it easy on Blackfoot. Let's take it easy on Van Beaver. All right. So that was my Siquijior misadventure. And like I said, we took the big ferry back, and it was perfect because there was a huge breeze coming from the north. You got that Amihan breeze blasting down. You got the trade winds or whatever it is. So it was beautiful, and that was when the most beautiful sunset that I've ever seen in my life occurred. The entire sky, just in a 360-degree dome, was lit up. It was just pastel beauty, and I didn't have my DSLR. I couldn't really effectively capture it, but I'll never forget that moment. It was just so sublime. It was so fulfilling, and that's one of the reasons why I love living here, is seeing just going around a corner or hopping on a ferry and just randomly running into stuff like that. And what was cool was everybody, and you know how Filipinos are, they'll usually just, as soon as they get on the ferry, they're asleep. But they were all up, and they all went back to the observation area, and everybody's just looking around. It was really magical. All right, now, with that happy story about my stupidity and my misadventure and my continuing mistakes that I'm making in the Philippines, not slowing down, not smelling the roses, let's get into the second topic. Yeah, this guy's got an interesting username, Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. Thanks for all the tips of the use of a drone. Yeah, it's like I said, if you get a Mavic or you're getting a Mavic, definitely learn how to do the hand launch and the hand landing. It's really easy. The first time you do it, it's kind of nerve-wracking, but it's definitely the best way to do it, because a lot of times you don't want to get sand in the engines and all that stuff, or crashing into the grass or something. So it's just a lot easier to do that. All right, Mr. Van Dieber. Oh, God. Okay, let's get into the second part, dealing with loneliness as an expatriate in the Philippines. The Philippines is a nation. It's a pretty big country when you put everything together. Over 100 million people. You're always surrounded by happy, smiling faces, usually. And when you first, especially when you first get here, you're not going to know anybody. You're going to be a stranger in a strange land. And even though the Philippines is Asia light, it's not as hardcore as like Thailand, Vietnam, China, something like that. It's still a transition that you have to make. So you're feeling isolated, you're feeling alone, and you're thousands of miles away from your friends. You're thousands of miles away from your family. Your support structure is basically gone. You're having to rely on yourself basically for everything. And a lot of people, especially coming from like where I'm from, Boston, we're pretty introverted. We're not really extroverted. We don't go up and smile and say, "Hi, sir, what's your name? Where are you from? Are you married? Do you have kids?" and all that stuff. We don't engage like that. So when you first get here, you got this bubble around you, and you're not doing yourself a favor because, like, you don't have the social skills. Like I'm speaking for myself, of course. You don't have the social skills necessary to start creating those friendships. Or when people are coming up to you, or just you're going somewhere, you're standing in line somewhere, and people start asking you all these questions. It's like, who is this guy? What's his effing problem? It's none of your business who I am. My name's Nanya. Nanya, get damn business, and all that stuff. So, and I'm sure other people have experienced this. There's going to be times here that you're going to feel lonely and you're going to feel isolated and you're going to, it's going to be a little sad. It's going to be a little depressing, and it's going to happen no matter what. Even when you're surrounded by, you go to a fiesta, you go to a party, you go to a club, and you're surrounded by hundreds of people and everybody's having a great time, water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. Sometimes you're going to still feel that isolation, especially if you're more of an introvert, especially if you're kind of shy. They talk about Filipinos being shy, but a lot of people are shy. A lot of people are hesitant to make that overture, to initiate a relationship, and some of us have forgotten how to do it, and that's something that I deal with. And even knowing lots of people here and having relationships here, sometimes you're still going to feel lonely. The other thing you have to keep in mind, and I've spoken about this before, is uh, foreigners that live long term in the Philippines are a special bunch. When I say special, it's more along the lines of special ed, like the short bus. I shouldn't say that. That's so politically incorrect. And I include, like I said, I've always included myself in this. There's a certain level of eccentricity. There's a certain level. I mean, you run a lot into the conspiracy theories on both sides. The tinfoil hat type people. You see a lot of that. Uh, if you're a conservative, like if you're a conservative American, you're going to have more luck meeting people and making friends than you are if you're more liberal, because there's a lot more conservative American types here in the Philippines than there are more liberal progressives. I don't know why. Maybe the liberal progressives are all, in their elite cities making lots of money and they don't want to live in the Philippines. But so your selection, the people that you rub elbows with, is going to be more limited than when you were back in your home nation, your home country. And I have, even after all this time, I still have more expatriate friends than I have Filipino friends, because the way the culture and the society is structured, it's just different here, and it's sometimes it's hard to make those relationships. I've had more success with Filipino Americans. There's a number of Filipino Americans that I know that have returned to Dumaguete to retire after working 30, 40, 20 years in the United States. I seem to have more success with them because we're able to relate at a different level. And I'm not saying it's a better level, a worse level. There's just that commonality of experiences, and just being able to make that connection. Uh, so that's that. If you're watching this later on, I'd like to hear your input on this. I know a number of guys are saying, uh, that they don't have that problem. But if you do have that problem, you want to share it, definitely do that. Leave a comment later when the video processes and all that stuff. Wave Dancer asks, how do you handle neighbors who terrorize you with extreme loud and primitive music? If you go back to, I got a video on YouTube, I think it's something along the lines of dealing with difficult neighbors. You can see my experiences with that. He was actually a foreigner. He was a fellow American, and he would blast his music basically 18 hours a day. And he was, at the end, he was also drinking a lot. And then his wife eventually kicked him out of the house, took the house, and sold it. So how do you deal with it? That's something you really got to keep in mind, especially if you're going to be a renter. People and other people recommended this before I do, but what you do is you go check the place out, then you come back like in the afternoon, you come back later on that night, you come back in the morning, and just make sure that nobody's got a kick-in freaking karaoke system that's going to, destroy your mind over time. Gerardo Risotto. Jerry, I just want to say once again, I really appreciate all the work that you put into your content. Not only is it educational and it's taken on a very complex subject, or a very simple subject actually, but you actually put a lot of time into making those videos. And dude, not once have I watched one of your videos and have I not started laughing out loud, which is something I normally don't do. I'm not a laugh out loud type of person. So thank you for all the work that you've done. Really appreciate it. So, oh God, you guys are so bad about Manila Hobo. So that's basically it. The Siquijior trip went well. It was nice to get away. Next time and I might go back there in a couple more weeks. And this time I'm probably going to stay on San Juan. There's actually like this water sport type. I shouldn't say water sport. That sounds so Trumpian Russia hotel thing. There's actually this resort that you can stay. It's only like 2,000 pesos a day that has jet skis and kayaks and all that stuff. And then, so the next time I go to Siquijior, I might just go there, just stay there and just relax and unwind. If you're also looking for a place on Negros to really get away from it all, it's one of the little hidden gems of Negros up in Sipalay. Yes, they had some problems with the MPA recently, not too long ago, but Sugar Beach is my favorite destination on Negros. Hopefully I'll be able to get up there sometime with the drone, and because that's a really beautiful place. It's not accessible by cars. It's not accessible by scooters. It's quiet. It's got a nice white sand beach. There's a bunch of resorts. There's a lot of Europeans. It's basically like the United Nations of Negros. Yeah, Jerry, not a problem. Yeah, and dude, you're just funny as hell. I've heard you also on, I believe it was on Dave's channel, and you were talking, and you're just a funny dude, man. We're the juice of your live cast. It's a business model. Yeah, a lot of people don't like the live cast, and I can understand why. It's not scripted. Some people tend to meander on way too much. Drone on. Yeah, I got a Mavic drone, and it's called Me. Yeah, he's checking MAC addresses. I'm sure he can do that. All right, that's a whole nother subject. All right, so what I'm taking away from this, and this is actually cool. Actually, this live cast is good for me because it's like talk therapy. Sometimes it's just good to vocalize what's going through your head so you can work through some of your issues. And I'm feeling a little bit better after doing this. Although I got to say, I approach each live cast with some trepidation. If you want something really good to read, I've recommended this before. The link is down in the video description box. The Great White Tribe in Philippinia. If you're in the Philippines and you haven't read this book, it's free from the whatever it is, the link down there, the Guggenheim Depository. It's amazing seeing and reading this book. It was written at the turn of the 19th century. It was an Englishman working as a teacher down in Mindanao, and seeing how much hasn't changed and the way things work here in the Philippines is really good. The guy is also an excellent writer. It's visceral, and even though it was written, over 115 years ago, it's still a very contemporary read. The language is there. Basically, that's it. Yeah, somebody said there's too many aswang on Siquijior, so pretty much we aren't going there. Yeah, some Filipinos are like legitimately frightened of going to Siquijior because of the wak-wak, the aswang, the ghosts, the jungle giants. I forgot what they're called. Um, and yeah, they take it pretty seriously, man. They can be pretty superstitious at in some things, and definitely Siquijior is one of them. When you're mentioning just randomly to people that you go on a Siquijior, sometimes they'll be, "What? Don't go there. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't go there." But when you get there, especially around San Juan, it's like being in freaking, Tijuana or something. It's just all foreigners, and they're everywhere. They're clogging up the roads at night. They're drunk and rolling in the gutters over there. It's insane, but it's a good time. And if you're in Dumaguete or you're visiting Negros, I highly recommend spending 2 nights over there, 3 days, renting a scooter. It's only 350 pesos a day. Now be careful, and this is what I'm going to leave you with. When we first got there, the guy was like, "Yep, 350 pesos a day for the automatic scooter." It was a Yamaha Mio, great bike. And I'm like, "Cool." And he's like, and then he said something like, "Yep, it's 30 pesos an hour." And I'm like, "Wait a minute." And I'm not good with math, so I'm like, 30, 20. No, 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 that's 720 or something like that, pesos for 24 hours if it's 30 pesos an hour. And he was like, And we had to break out the phones with the calculator, and he's going, but, oh yeah, that must be a mistake or something. Okay, yeah, 350 pesos. So I'm wondering if we had returned the next day, and then he said, but sir, I said it was 30 pesos per hour, so that's whatever 30 times 24 is. So that was kind of sketchy. Make sure they don't do that. But Siquijior is a good time. Thanks to Dana for being my assistant on this trip. You were a big help. It's hard to carry and do all this stuff by yourself. She's also a very funny person, and her facial expressions and the face of all my misadventures were just priceless. I wish I could have captured them or been allowed to publish them. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This is streaming at 360p, so if you're experiencing buffering issues, on behalf of PLDT, I apologize. PLDT is also coming down the street with the fiber. They're now at the next intersection down the road, so hopefully soon I will have real internet. Take care, stay out of trouble, keep up the good work, and keep that Manila hobo on his toes, which is claw. Take care, y'all. Be well, and hopefully I'll have some videos coming up in the next couple days or by this weekend, and they should be pretty good. I got a good feeling about this next one. Take care. Be well. I'm Ping Ingyat. Peace.